Here we go again. Day 6, and let's show you something here coming out of the railway line that runs right the way through the middle of the town, and trains rattle through here. So, and the hotel I was in was just behind that, just up there where that guy's cleaning, and so periodically these trains go charging through. So I was awake. Actually, I'll go right down to the seafront. So it's only about 7 o'clock, so I've been awake since about 5, and you sit there and you think, well, I might as well just go, walking to Spain today. That sounds good, doesn't it? And actually, what I wanted to talk about today was all the different routes, actually. I'm sort of trying to cover all these different subjects. I know some people are interested talking about doing this themselves and all that type of thing. Happy to give advice if you feel that way. If you fancy doing this, quite happy to help if I can. Lots of different routes. And I'll say, obviously, I'm on the Portuguese route, as I've mentioned lots of times already. The most famous route is the Française route, the route that starts actually in southwest France, just the other side of the Pyrenees from Spain, a place called Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port. And its most famous route, partly, I suppose it's the one, if people talk about the Camino, that's the route that they generally mean, I think, or that people think that they mean. Lovely, isn't it? No one about. And that is a whole route that starts. The first couple of days are literally over the Pyrenees, so you can imagine what that's like, going into Spain and then right across the top of Spain through Pamplona, Burgos, Leon, and eventually on to Santiago, a route which is over 500 miles. And I suppose it's become most famous because of the film The Way with Martin Sheen, directed by his son, and his son is in it, Emilio Estevez, about an American man who loses his son, who's Emilio Estevez, who's walking the Camino because they're estranged, and then he ends up walking himself. Anyway, that really popularised the Camino as a walk, and obviously that particular route, and loads of people that I've talked to on this particular trip, that was one of their reference points to why they did it. There have been other films, and there's a film by an Australian guy called Bill Bennett, I think, called My Way, The Way, which is quite recent. But and I've seen The Way with Martin Sheen a couple of times. Watched it not long before coming out, and I must admit, the second time I thought it was a bit cheesy, but it was sort of stereotypical characters. Now, anyway, but it just certainly showed what it's about, what the whole thing's about. So that's one of the reasons that people do that particular route, and it's the one, as I said, that it's the most popular. It's become very popular now. Altogether, all the different routes converging into Santiago. Last year, nearly or around 500,000 people collected their Compostela, their certificates, after completing at least 100 kilometres of one of the routes. And that is just the people that got their Compostela. Not everybody does that, especially if you've already done one. You don't need to get another certificate, really. But some people want to do that, that's fair enough. But anyway, so an aside, but there's several other different routes. There's one called the La Plata route, which actually starts in Seville in Spain. That is over 1,000 kilometres from Spain, from Seville. La Plata means silver, and it used to be an old silver route. I'll show you this actually. So a lot of these follow ancient trackways. Yeah, they love their little art sculptures. I'm trying to figure out what that means. Unfortunately, no. And another thought. So that route, as I said, it's over 1,000 kilometres and follows old Roman roads on part of its route. So once again, a lot of these are ancient routes, obviously pilgrimage routes, but using old routes that have been used by farmers, drovers, whatever, people just walking about in their daily lives. And then there's one called the Norte route, which is as in north, not as in being naughty, and that runs across the north of Spain. There's another one called the English route, actually, Inglés, and the orange that starts into Bilbao, Santander, along that way, and once again goes along the top of the coast into northern Spain, into Santiago. And the roots of that one, actually, obviously it suggests England. People used to come from England, from wherever in England, and then they used to get, say, especially from Winchester or something like that, which I mentioned possibly with the Pilgrim's Way, that they used to walk from Winchester down to Southampton, and then they get a boat of some description across through the Bay of Biscay and all that sort of stuff into northern Spain and do what became known as the English route. And funnily enough, we were in Avebury in Wiltshire earlier this year, myself and Julie, and just walking around, lots of ancient trackways there, the Ridgeway being the most famous, I suppose, and went to the church and didn't notice the name of the church. Walking around the church, and what we see? A scallop shell, and something to do with the Camino, because scallop shell being the sort of the main symbol of the Camino. Maybe I'll tell you about that another time. And of course, you thought, well, I know it's a case if you start noticing these things when you're involved, if you see what I mean. But it turns out that people, because the church was called St James, it had been renamed in about the 12th, 13th century or something because of people going on pilgrimage. And what they used to do from there, they'd start their pilgrimage, as I mentioned the other day, almost from their front door, and they used to do it there with just go to the church, St James in Avebury, and then walk to Bristol on one of the old coaching routes, and then get a boat from Bristol to northern Spain and walk the English route. And another thing is that there's lots of these feeder routes coming in. We were in Montpellier in southern Spain a couple of years ago now, and once again I started spotting all these little arrows and scallop shells embedded into the pavement, pointing the way towards Santiago. So oh, actually, another thing I just thought of, there was a BBC TV programme called Pilgrimage, which is worth watching. Gets celebrities, you might recognise a couple of them, and they do a pilgrimage. They did a couple of series in the UK, the British pilgrim routes, and then this one was in Austria and Switzerland, going to a particular religious site, and but once again, that was what he classes as a feeder route into the main Camino Frances, and then ultimately to Santiago. So there are routes literally littered all over the place. In fact, we were in when we were in Italy, there was some there which go towards Rome, so, and then people may even come to Santiago. So there are routes all over the place, but as I said, what people do anyway is you don't necessarily, unless you are religious and want to do that, you can just walk out your front door and go on one of the more recognised routes, one of the paths in England. There are a lot of those now. There's even an organisation called the British Pilgrimage Trust, which are trying to re-energise, if that's the right word, all the ancient pilgrim routes that we've got in the UK, and that includes one from Reading through to Winchester and now to Southampton and now to Portsmouth, for those old traditional reasons that I mentioned before. So there you go. So that's a lovely morning actually, and so I'm walking into Spain today. Round the corner, hopefully I should start to see the Mount, I've forgotten it again already, which is about 1,000 feet high, by the way. I've not seen any other pilgrims yet. I am ahead of the crowd, literally. Anyway, I have no doubt I shall speak to you a bit later on. Bon Camino. There's some of the markers. Follow the yellow arrows. And here we go. I was talking about the scallop shell and everything. And there we are. Straight ahead, Mont de Santa Triga, something like that. So, and that's Spain, right at just over the border. So, and you can see it's not that far away. It looks very volcanic, doesn't it? Whether it is or not, I'm afraid I don't know. So on we go. Here we are, a bit further on, really opening up now. You can see the mist rolling in the hills there in Spain. And you can see make out the river valley at the river mouth there. There's the obligatory forts out there, and then up sort of in the middle of the picture there's a nice sandy beach and some woods behind, and I'm heading up hopefully through those woods and onto the headland to get a little boat to take me across the river, and then walk round that and then round to the left and round that to my accommodation is the other side. And one thing I'll say, see that, there's a snail. There are snails everywhere today. Yesterday it was all lizards, probably a bit cold or cool for them, not cold, cool for them at the moment, but lovely. So really been impressed by the Portuguese coastline up here. I only know the Algarve, and that was a long time ago, so really stunning, and sort of geologically as well. There's lots of bits of information boards and everything about all the geological activity that's happened along here. You got all the flowers and all the little marshy bits and everything like that. Very impressed. So thank you very much, Portugal. No doubt I should be back at some time or other. Here we go. I'm just coming up to the woodland I was talking about, which goes onto the headland by the river. And this is one of those things that there are lots, talking about the different routes. You can see here there's arrows pointing in both directions, straight ahead and round the corner. I'm going straight ahead. But I was thinking about the different routes and the variations within them. The Portuguese, as I mentioned, has the coastal route, which I'm doing, which has also got a variation called the littoral route, and then there's the central route as well. And as you can see on this little bit, this is actually a deviation as well. I just fancied going up through the forest because it looked like a great idea to do. And actually when I get to the river mouth, I'm going to cross over by boat, as I said, cross to the other side. There is another version, what they call the spiritual variation, or the spiritual variant, which goes up the river and crosses over the road bridge into Spain, and then it goes to one of those big, a huge church, which is quite spectacular apparently, and then they go round that way. I'm not sure how many miles it adds to it. Well, it probably wouldn't add that many because I'm going around the coast, and then they end up having to get a boat at the end, but round to Padron, which is where I shall be in a few days' time now, just before Santiago. And as I mentioned before, I think yesterday, that's where St. James landed, and you actually go past on that boat journey and this monument to where he supposedly landed when he came from the Holy Land over 2,000 years ago. So you can also almost make these little things up as you want, especially if you've got all the apps that people use. I've got a couple of apps which are very good, actually show you, you know, in these days of GPS and that, you can tell exactly where you are, as I can now. So I know that if I keep walking, I'm going to hit the sea, or sorry, the river, in the not too distant future. So here we go again, off into the unknown, I suppose. Just the sound of bird song. Stop now, of course. And my feet. There we go. No one writing. One pilgrim in front of me earlier, passed him not long ago, and no one else about because it's early, and also, as I said, because of all those variations on the route. But glad I took this. This is nice, very peaceful, I must say. Here we go on the boat. I got here just as it was leaving. Here we are. Hola España. Buenos dias Galicia. That didn't take long. There's one boat coming in now. You can see it just behind me. They just go across the headland. I just came on the other side over there, and the guy, there's 3 girls, who just come across with me as well. And I didn't know how long I'd have to wait or if it'd be even started at this time. But there's the guy there, ready. Jumped on the boat, €6. About 5 minutes later, I'm in Spain. Brilliant. This has been a good day already. Not bad at all. So now we're going to go find our way around the coast. Yeah, brilliant. Just walking along the coastline here, just a little bit from where I was earlier, coming across we can see the river mouth there, and looking back, and it does seem strange to think that I've walked all the way up there. It's quite something. It is a really nice piece of coast along here, I must say. Stunning scenery right the way along, but especially this little bit here, there's something about it. I think it's the nature and everything as well that's around. The birds. Just been looking at a little stone chat sitting on a pole up there, quite oblivious to me and not worried about me. And it's that hill, which looks rather smaller now, doesn't it, in some sort of way. And I'm headed off around the corner, so the cyclist just gone past, saying Buen Camino to me. Very nice. Hello again. I've arrived. Amazingly early, actually, a lot earlier than I anticipated. I'm in the town of Guarda. That's that big hill up there. Doesn't look like, as I said earlier, doesn't look quite as big. Another harbour, another fishing town, and a bit of a miscalculation, because what I've done, as you've seen from the other videos that I've already shown and the pictures, I took a bit of a shortcut. I went up along the coast and then went through that forest, as I said, which was taking a bit of a shortcut again, and then came out onto the headland, straight onto the boat, as I think I mentioned. I came out and the boat was sitting there, and the guy gestured to me, "Do you want to get on here?" So I said, "Yeah, okay." So suddenly I'm on the boat and I'm in Spain in about 5 minutes, and walked up the coast around the corner, and I'm already here, and it's only taken me about 3 hours to get here. So the Spanish time I've gone forward now, so I've got a couple of hours before I can check into the hotel. And I've only ended up doing about 6 miles, whereas I thought I was going to be getting on for double that, actually. And so it's one of those situations, actually, because tomorrow's a similar sort of thing. I've realised that it's not quite as far as I originally anticipated to go tomorrow, to a place called Oya, up the coast. And so one of those situations where when you do plan things, if you do, well, that's not a mistake, it doesn't matter. You know, it's nice to have an easy day, actually. It was a lovely walk today, and it's not a bad little place to be, and it's nice to be back in Spain, etc. as well. But if you were doing it on your own, I would actually have carried on today to Oya and saved myself a day if I'd have realised that. But that's just the way it goes, isn't it? It's fair enough. So it's one of these sort of, heads or tails type of thing as to which way it goes, as to which way it turns out. But it's been a nice day. It's been, it's lovely walk earlier, but I was walking by 7 o'clock. I mean, I think that was the thing. That's one other reason why I'm here so early. But anyway, I'm going to have to chill out and sit here for a while, go and get a coffee, check into my hotel, then I should probably go and have some lunch. It's a tough life, Still in Aguada. I just thought I'd check in, actually, because I thought I'd sit in the sun. I've just been to a little cafe just up behind me up there, and just to get a coffee, €1. And this guy at the bar started talking to me, and we had a conversation. Well, he had a conversation. We established that I was on my way to I was walking to Santiago. I come from Portugal. This sort of stuff. And the guy, I sat outside, I phoned Julie and had a chat with her, and then the bell started ringing, and the guy next to me started talking about Santiago, and then behind me, one of the things we both love, that you see all these guys down here. There's a whole row of them on their bench, and there's another guy over the other side of the road who keeps shouting across at them all, and I think they wanted to come and sit with them, but he won't. I think it's because one of the guys he's not very keen on or something, and he's talking to everybody. It's just one of those things, and it's, oh no, Paco's back. And you just sit here for hours watching these guys sit here for hours, and it's just one of those things that I love about the sort of European culture. But it seems to be especially prevalent, I think, in Spain. Italy's very good as well. I didn't see it as much in Portugal, if I'm honest, on the way up here, but straight away coming here, straight back into it. And it's so nice to be back into that sort of environment, because you could just sort of sit around and just people watch, which is something that I like to do. There's a nice little restaurant which I'm because they don't start eating lunch until probably 2 o'clock, but I might get away with 1 o'clock. So I think instead of checking into the hotel, I might actually go over there and have some lunch at about 1 o'clock, which is in about 20 minutes or so before the siesta kicks in. Another thing they don't seem to have in Portugal, but I suspect here they will. And come sort of about 3 o'clock or so, it'll go quiet again. Anyway, buenos dias from Guarda.